Welcome to the very first Discussions with Deuce podcast. I'm Shane Hildreth, VYPE Media CEO, and with me is Corey Deuce Warren. Deuce, South Houston,
Hey.
1990 graduate, wide receiver for the Oklahoma Sooners, two-time captain and 90s All-Decade team, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and current personal trainer, coach for Second Baptist High School, and father of 3 daughters. Deuce, welcome.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you. Sugar Shane, I should admit.
There you
How's
go.
everything going?
We're doing good. All right. So,
First of all, I'd like to thank you for putting this together. You know what I'm saying? I've really been praying for a platform where I can use my vocals to influence people with the circle of influence. And I thank you for putting this together, Shane. We're going to have a great ride.
No, this is going to be awesome. And just so everybody knows, our podcast throughout these, every other week we're going to be doing these. We're going to be focusing on current topics within the sports world with a heavy focus on high school sports. And Deuce, I know I've touched on your background a little bit, but anything you'd like to add?
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to say thanks, Shane, for setting this podcast up. I've been praying for a piece of information that I can get out there to people with my voice and just use my voice to mentor the people and mentor the kids especially. I've been coaching now for 9 years here at Second Baptist. I started at Westbury Christian under Charlie Ward. He gave me an opportunity to coach, and it's been a passion of mine. I love doing what I'm doing. I feel that every day I wake up, I have an opportunity to lead someone, whether it's leading them to Christ or leading them to a better position on the football field or basketball field or track, or even just to help them in their wellness in life. And that's my life's calling. I'm glad I found it. I'm glad God is using me to influence those around me. It's a beautiful thing. And again, my daughter, Courtney, who's also been to the University of Oklahoma, Alabama, and graduated from U of H. Morgan, who's my middle daughter. She's a 9th grader here at Second Baptist, playing volleyball as well. And Corey, my youngest daughter, is at Baines Middle School, and she's participating in track and karate, and she's also got a thing for the arts. So I'm a big advocate of kids playing sports, because sports does so much for not only health purposes, but also the psyche as well. And I also coach with 7-on-7 with KB 360 Elite, and also help out with the KB 360 recruiting as well. So a little bit of history about me, Shane. What about yourself?
Well, I've been CEO of VYPE for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I worked for IMG College for 6 years, working with athletic directors at universities such as Nebraska, Texas, Baylor, Arkansas. Nebraska South was my territory. And before that, I was director of sales for the Houston Astros for 5 years.
Okay.
And, worked for the Texans for a cup of coffee prior to that. And as far as coaching, I did my undergrad at the University of Texas at Austin. And I spent my free time coaching for Concordia University, just up the road while I was at the University of Texas.
Okay.
So got the bug. Went to UT on a baseball walk-on invite. They had a first baseman named Jeff Ontiveros who could hit home runs, and I couldn't. So didn't end up making the team, but got to go to UT. So I'm looking forward to the Red River Showdown in a few weeks.
Yes, sir. Boomer Sooner.
We can talk a little trash.
Yeah. Hey, I always tell people, here at Second Baptist, it's insulated with Texas X, right? Yep. So there's a few Oklahoma alumni sprinkled throughout here. And I tell them all, hey, look, we have 1 week out of the year to really go at each other's head. So let's really do it. And now guess who's been coming out of the woodworks, coming at all the Oklahoma people? The Baylor Bears. There's so many Bears coming out of the woodworks. I had a lady jump from behind the pier the other day and do that little sick'em sign. I was like, "Man, get out of here!"
They're so new at winning, they don't even know how to win yet.
Especially Mark Toon, by the way.
Especially Mark Toon, absolutely. Yeah, but that's a little bit. I did grow up here in Houston. I went to Cy Falls High School. Graduated in '97. So Houston native. Like I said, I spent 5 years in Austin. Yes, I got a victory lap in my education at UT, and then came right back to Houston. So, but again, Deuce, I'm looking forward to the podcast that we're going to be doing, and I'm
No
really
doubt.
about this first one because we're hitting two topics that are prevalent right now all over the news, and talking about COVID-19 and the impacts of it's doing to our community and high school sports, as well as racial injustice and how that's impacting our communities and our coaches and players within our high school sports community. And so first, let's talk about COVID-19. We heard rumors of this virus in January and February, and then spring break hits and it shuts our country down. All sports were canceled. Here at VYPE, we really felt for those spring sports, the baseball and softball, and the other spring sports athletes who basically lost their senior year and not having graduations, doing them virtually, no proms, just all of those ceremonious things that you get as a senior.
Yeah.
Stripped away from high school students, period, not just athletes. And so just kind of, I want to set the stage with where we're at today. Yesterday, the CDC released some new numbers. So I'm just going to kind of state some of those numbers, and then, we'll get the conversation started. Nationwide, right now we're at 6.2 million cases. We have 188,000 deaths nationwide. It's a 3% death rate. Now, since we are focusing on high school athletes, one of the numbers that we are paying attention to is that 0 to 18 years old. And nationwide, there's been 369,000 cases and 88 deaths. So only 0.1%. Now, those 88 deaths aren't good, but compared to the national average, it is one of the lower demographics that have the death rate.
0.2%. I see.
That's it. Now, since we're podcasting from Harris County here in Houston, we've had 111,000 cases. That's 17% of Texas cases are here in Harris County, and 2,335 deaths. So that's a 2% death rate. So, with those facts, and who I really feel for right now are your school administrators. I mean, they make difficult decisions, whether it's a head of school at a private school, a superintendent at a public school ISD. Parents are split on whether their kids should go to school, not go to school, play sports, not play sports. ADs have a mountain to climb between procedures, policies, protocols. How many fans do you have in the stands? How do you make sure that the athletes are safe, the coaches are safe? What about junior high sports? Is that even something that we accomplished this year? With all of that said, they're talking about canceling sports or shortening the seasons. One of our writers at VYPE, Josh Cook, wrote an article and got a ton of coaches to weigh in on this, but I'd like to read an excerpt real quick that speaks to this. And it's on canceling sports. And you just can't come out and say cancel sports. It's got a much bigger impact than some would think. When you say those words to a high school student or coach, you are doing more damage than just canceling a game or a practice. It is canceling hope, canceling dreams, canceling a potential life-saving or life-altering opportunity. For some, being a part of a high school sports team can alter the trajectory of their life. And to that note, we got a quote from Kenny Harrison, the Summer Creek head football coach. High school football saved my life. It was my one motivation to attend high school. Without football, there's no way I would have made it out of Port Arthur. I was blessed to receive athletic scholarship to the University of Texas. And so with that, Deuce, as a former high school football player, what would you have thought if you were told that your junior or senior year was canceled?
And I would have been devastated. And at that particular time, in life, like so many of my friends, college sports was our way out. College sports was going to be the way out of a lifestyle that we were definitely trying to get out of. In my era, when I was growing up in South Houston, we were flooded with drugs, gang violence, not so much Crips and Bloods or anything like that, but just local neighborhoods fighting against one another, right? So college sports was going to be my way out. And just to say that you take away football my junior year, then that's going to devastate me. Who knows where my life trajectory would go. Even my senior year, whereas I didn't have a lot of fanfare my junior year. And it took playing a junior year for colleges like the University of Oklahoma or Wisconsin or Colorado or A&M, all the schools that recruited me, to see me play my junior year in order to even come back for my senior year and to look at me even deeper. I was thankful it all worked out my senior year. John Blake came and got me out of South Houston. But if it wasn't for football or basketball or any of the sports I played, I don't know where I would be today. Not to mention just the life lessons that football will teach you, the camaraderie that you get out of football, just being in that locker room. You hear a lot of guys, professional, college, high school, they don't really say, I miss the game of football. What they say is, I miss the camaraderie in the locker room, because that locker room camaraderie is something you can't get anywhere else. I have friends to this day. My dad just passed away 2 weeks ago, and I had friends from high school, from junior high, calling me, and I was friends with those guys based on how we started in Pee Wee football or how we started in Pee Wee baseball. And we've been friends 35 plus years. And those same friends are the same friends that look at me now and say, hey, man, thanks for teaching me this, or thanks for showing me how to do this, or just thanks for being there when I needed them or when they needed me. So it's deeper than just playing football or playing basketball or playing baseball or playing volleyball. It's deeper than that. It's the life experiences and the life lessons that you learn from playing a team sport that really propels you and covers your whole life. It has for me, especially.
No, thank you for that. I mean, it's so true. I mean, it's you're friends for life, going into battle with these guys. You're all fighting for the same purpose. You can't find that anywhere else.
You can't.
And on top of that, what we're hearing from a lot of parents right now that's causing angst, especially for the juniors, is there were no college camps this summer.
No.
So
no college camps. And that's it even affected us in 7-on-7 and AAU basketball, because I coach both 7-on-7 and AAU basketball, and it affected us. And we had some juniors that and seniors that were gonna play AAU basketball and 7-on-7 that couldn't get a chance to play, and that might have hurt them as far as the recruiting process. Recruiters couldn't get out to see them in these major AAU tournaments or these major 7-on-7 tournaments that we do, especially with Adidas. We coach for an Adidas elite team, and we didn't have our Adidas championship game, which were played in Florida this year. Those were canceled. So I know it affected the trajectory of these kids getting recruited as well. And that's a big oomph to someone trying to pull themselves out of a situation where they may be now to propel them to somewhere tomorrow. So it's been huge.
Yeah, we're interested to see how not having camps this summer is going to truly affect these kids. To kind of shift gears, as a coach, how do you handle coaching during a pandemic right now?
Man, it's tough. It really is, Shane, because, as a coach, I'm more of the type of coach that I can not so much get physical with the kids, but demonstrate by showing them, physicality, putting them in a stance, maybe making them backpedal over my hand, or touching and putting your shoulders down in the right position, or hands active at the right position. So you've really got to be more detail oriented with your coaching. Your verbiage has really got to be good now. The details in which you put within the drill, you've got to finite those details. So you've really got to be forward thinking. You've got to prepare better with all your drills. You got to visualize them and see them before you implement them and put them into play. And the kids are great at listening. Now you get a real good kid when the kid can listen and apply. A lot of kids can't listen and apply. A lot of coaches talk about being coachable, right? Yeah. We as coaches have got to be coachable as well, especially in this pandemic era. We've got to be able to change the mentality on which we have coached. We've got to change because the pandemic has caused you to change. So now we've got to be better on our verbiage. We can't just yell at kids anymore. You've got to talk calmly, and you may be 6 to 12 feet away from a kid. So now if you're someone that's quiet, you've got to up your tone, or if you're an introvert, you got to come out of that shell. So it's definitely changed the way you coach. It's changed the approach of coaching and the mentality of coaching. Me personally, it's got me out of my comfort zone because I had to start Zooming with some of my clients. So now here it is. God has prepped me to be able to Zoom with you now, Discussions with Deuce. But if it wasn't for the pandemic, I may not have stepped out of my shell to start Zooming my training sessions in. So there's a lot of negatives out there, but I'm of the mentality that I want to take a negative and turn it into a positive the best way that I can. So there's your change in the COVID and coaching.
And so as parents are sending their kids to school, getting them out of the practices, are there any suggestions you have, any advice you have to parents? I mean, as you mentioned, I've got a 13 and a 10-year-old, and we're sending them back to school next week, and I'm excited to get them out of the house. I know they are too, but, should us parents be doing anything knowing, there's been so much focus on the kids, but there's also teachers and coaches and administrators who are involved in this. What outside of what we're hearing, make sure you wash your hands, put a mask on, but I mean, health-wise, nutrition-wise, is there anything that, parents should be doing?
Well, from as far as nutritious-wise, make sure they're getting their vitamin C, getting vitamin D, getting vitamin E, getting all your nutrients, your vitamins, anything that you can boost the immune system. Definitely you want to do that. Like you said, continue to tell them to wash their hands. Like Brad was saying earlier, wash your hands. Keep your fingers out of your face, things of that nature. Keep your mask on, face coverings. We're not sure how the face coverings work as far as now. I know earlier we were saying, hey, mask up, mask up, mask up. Now the CDC has come out with things that are saying, hey, maybe not wear the mask, or only wear mask if you're close range with someone or close proximity with someone. So other than being prayed up, Shane, you just got to make sure they're adhering to whatever the administrators are putting out there as well. You know the small things, let the administrators handle the large things. And from what I see at Second Baptist, they've really got it together. Our teachers have come back earlier. They come back in July, when I think they were scheduled to come back early August, I believe, but they came back early in July, I believe. So they really got a hand on it and got it out in front of this thing and have made the parents feel that much more comfortable. So
that's great. And I don't think No matter how much a parent can tell their 10-year-old boy to keep his hands out of his mouth and his nose and his ears and his eyes, it's just not going to happen. I mean,
It's not gonna happen. And you know, I'm a parent, like I said, Shane, and my daughter Morgan, she contacted came in contact with someone that had COVID, and she contracted it herself, and we quarantined her for 10 days. I think she might have did one day where she had flu-like symptoms. Other than that, she popped back and bounced back and recovered and was able to go to school the first day. Hadn't had any problems since. You know, there are going to be some cases. Someone may catch it. Yet and still, if you stay prayed up and you keep your immune system boosted, you should recover, you know? So
I think that's a lot of it. You know, you said keep prayed up a couple times. And I think tied with that, with a lot of things in life, if you have a positive attitude and a positive outlook, your health
it'll carry you a long way. It'll carry you a long way. Trust me.
on that, right? The less
Yeah.
stress,
Yeah.
the less fried food and cheeseburgers and stuff you're putting in your body, the better off you're going to be.
Hey, and getting out and getting to a sense of normalcy also helps you, the mental part of it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't um, talk about the mental aspect of getting back to what we call a sense of normalcy, as far as going back to school, as far as going back to practice. Those are things that help you out mentally, you know, and a lot of people discredit the mental part of the pandemic, or they don't talk about the mental part of the pandemic that has taken place, even with me. And I do a Zoom every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 o'clock with what I call my granny gang, but they're seniors, right? And the seniors aren't like kids where they have a bunch of people that they can talk to on the phone or go over their house and see. The seniors have really listened to the CDC and the news and the media, and they've really shut themselves in. So me being on the Zoom is somewhat their only communication or contact with someone in that week. So therefore, I've been preaching to them some of the things that Brad Cooper has taught me about the pandemic. And I've been telling them, hey, look, you got to get out. You got to be healthy. But the mental part of it, of them getting out and still having some sense of life, has really helped the seniors that I train. So for our seniors out there, I know we concentrate on a lot of sports as far as for Pee Wee to college, but just a bit of public service announcement for our seniors out there. Please get back out to a sense of normalcy. Trust yourself, trust the people that you are listening to on the media, and also trust God to make your body the instrument that he said it was going to be. So, all right, so we got, this is Brad Cooper. Brad's been here about 25 years. 25 years. Again, another historic person that I've known here at Second Baptist for about 9 years of my career. Brad actually was one of the first persons I could really talk to outside of the other coaches, because sometimes when coaches, you come in and you're put on a coaching staff. Not always at a private school do the coaches get to pick who they coach with. So I was put on a coaching staff at this particular juncture, and Brad was one of the guys that's a trainer. He trains for everybody here, right? Would you say, Brad?
Yep.
Brad trains all the sports here. He's the head trainer here. So he travels with the teams during playoffs times, right? Football, basketball, baseball, whoever's traveling, Brad's going with them. So I got a chance my first year to go to the Final Four in Dallas, and Brad was there with us, but I was new to the staff. So Brad kind of took me under his wing, and we've been friends ever since, right?
Ever since.
We've done about 9 to 11 years of life together. So I've got to meet his kids, got to share some interesting rides to and from places. So Brad Cooper.
Yeah, let me start off with kind of giving you a quick, short background of where I've come from. I've been a licensed athletic trainer for 37 years, and all that I've known for 37 years is treating athletic injuries, orthopedic injuries. I'm currently the senior faculty athletic trainer for Baylor College of Medicine here in the Texas Medical Center. When the COVID broke out, in March, when none of us knew the craziness that was going to come through this, and everything being shut down, so much uncertainty. I had to completely change gears, step outside of my comfort zone and do things I'm not used to doing, things I've never done, and you're learning on the job. So what I've been doing the last 6 months is COVID testing and COVID screening, not even really understanding what this thing was. And for sure, where did it come from? Where's it going? Is it here to stay? Is it going away? We don't know. So in the last 6 months, I've, again, being involved with mainly 16 to 18, 25-year-olds, all of my professional career, I had to switch gears and become face-to-face with about 400 people every single day for 6 months of all races, all cultures, you name it, I saw it. Even a prisoner, I had when I was doing a COVID test on an individual, they didn't tell me this prisoner in shackles shows up for me to test him because he was going on trial for the next day. So you have to react on the spot. So I became somewhat an expert on this COVID without wanting to be. It's just something that in order to survive day to day, you have to kind of get to know the monster that you're dealing with. And the good thing is I've been exposed to it every, Monday through Friday for 6 months. I was exposed to it. Thanks to God, I didn't get it. And so it's given me a new approach on how to approach my own life, how to approach life to others, how to open up differently to others than I have in the past. And it really broke down maybe some insecurities I might have had. I was scared to death, not scared of getting sick. I don't operate like that. I was more scared, can I get up and perform and do what I'm supposed to do that day, because this is also new.
Yeah.
So basically that's what I've been on the front line in the Texas Medical Center for 6 months. And now I'm back in the athletic sports community mode. And it was a huge transition to go from what I was doing in March up to March, and then getting out of it and going into the hospital for 6 months. And now I'm back in. So it's been this toss and turn of emotions, to be honest with you. And so that's my story. This is my 6th year. I'm going on my 6th year working for the Baylor College of Medicine. So they have helped me kind of look at data, see trends, see what works, what doesn't work, and I'm just trying to apply it here.
So, Brad, what can you say to comfort someone, a parent that says they're on the fence? Because most parents, as you know, most parents are sending their kids back to school. I would say most parents are, right?
Yes.
And when it comes to sports, most parents are pushing their kids out to sports. Now, these parents, especially here at Second Baptist, the parents aren't just pushing them out there blindly, trust me. With the wealth of knowledge that Brad has, our AD, Mike Walker, Don Davis, who's the head of the school, they've all gotten this research that Brad has got as well, right, from Baylor Medicine.
Well, it's actually, all my information is from the Texas Medical Center, which a lot of people don't realize it's the largest medical center in the world. That changes the dynamics altogether. So when we look at people, how many we've tested here in Houston area, how many have tested positive, the reason why our numbers are so big, because we are the biggest on the planet as far as medical care, bigger than New York, bigger than anywhere else in Europe or anywhere in Asia. So don't let the numbers, they're skewed a little bit, because there's more people tested, because you have to be tested in order to have surgery. So more people are getting tested. And when I was doing the testing, I was testing about 150, 170 people a day. 99.999 of them were asymptomatic. It means they didn't have any symptoms. They were having a surgical procedure. They were required to have the test. They come and get the test, didn't even know they didn't have any symptoms. They didn't even know they had the virus. They tested positive. That is the majority of all cases of COVID. So that's why transferring that information into the schools, if we take the right precautions, the chances of someone getting sick are very, very, very small. So we should be encouraging them to get back in school. Another factor that people are not looking at, the short term, shut them down, do homeschool teaching, or you go online to do the teaching. Most school districts, because of their size, are already grandfathering you in. The worst grade you're going to make is a 60, a D. So you pass. So now the compliance of students getting online and doing the work is not very many. Now here at Second Baptist or private schools, higher academic schools, that's
Right.
different. But we're talking about the vast majority of our large school districts. They're already getting a 60. They're not even going online. So what happens in the short term, they think they're getting a little break from school in the way and routine.
Yeah.
But we're looking at a long term. How many people are going to graduate without any formal education? So now we're putting these people into our society, our culture, completely uneducated. So now you have to weigh is it worth more to take some chances, take some risks, and put them back into schools to learn, or try not to get this virus that we can't see, and 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, we could be in a really big mess, bigger than we are right now.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm encouraging, let's take the right precautions. Let's do all the proper measures we can, but let's try to restore some normalcy as much as we can in such a crazy culture and society now.
Yeah. And especially with all the things that sports bring to culture and society, and how a locker room, me and Shane was just discussing about how if we could take the locker room and make that the world that we live in, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. As far as the different camaraderie that we have.
Well, you said, okay, if you're going to camaraderie, here's another important thing that people aren't really truly understanding. You got to get outside our box. And our box is not this little straw that this is my world, this is all I know. You have to get outside the box and look at other cultures when we're collecting data as far as who's getting sick and who's not. The problem we have here in America, especially here in the South, we're more extrovert. We like to get out. We like to hug each other all the time. Yeah. Well, when that happens, we're going to spread germs. But you get over in the Asia culture where the numbers are down, like Taiwan, they always said no, the numbers are so low. They're introverts. They hold everything in. Yeah. They don't like to hug. They don't like to kiss. The Europeans, we come from Europe. We're mostly European. So we have that extrovert in us. That's why the numbers in Europe are so high. So yeah, the camaraderie and the affection, physical affection, is different than most parts of the world. So that is something that we have to, adjust.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me not to hug Deuce every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't care. I don't care about getting sick. They try to tell me, don't kiss your wife through a mask. I'm sorry. If I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick with my wife. Or we go to the church, put a mask on in the church and don't touch anybody. If I want to get sick, in the church is where I want to get sick and die.
Yeah, no doubt. And for those out there that don't know, me and Brad have had some extensive conversations, not only about what's going on in our world today, but also about religion, culture. I mean, there's so many different things that Brad has woken me up about, and obviously I've woken him up about, as far as just our cultures and the differences in our cultures. But the one thing I can commend Brad on, we are doing everything right as far as when the kids come from the time that they come into the locker room to the time they leave out of the locker room, entering, exiting, everything, we're taking those precautions and measures that they've gotten from the Texas.
Yeah, well, the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, and it's by now everybody should be familiar with it. Cleaning your hands often. Kids and high school kids, junior high kids, do not do that. Mm-hmm. They do not do that.
So we got to force them.
We have to force them to wash their hands.
Yeah.
And if they're not washing their hands, we know, we've all seen the junior high boy and some high school boys, they're going to the finger in the nose. If you get something on your finger, you're going to get it most likely because they're going to pick their nose, touch your face.
Yeah.
Social distancing is really probably the best of everything recommended, other than cleaning your hands. You know, there's controversy on covering the face. The CDC has been back and forth on that. I think if you're going to be, you know, normally in a close range within 6 feet, it's probably best to wear it after. But if you're not within 6 feet, wearing a mask is probably going a little bit too far. Cover your mouth and your nose when you cough and sneeze. And when you cough and sneeze, you got to go wash your hands.
Yeah.
Because you coughed in your hand,
Yeah.
it's there.
And I know, just to reiterate about the social distancing, I know as a coach, we have to keep our distance, but also we have to keep the kids space from each other as well. So your drills, your training has to have a notch up as far as verbiage is concerned. The detail in which you give the instructions for the kids to do the drills that you want them to do or do the training that you want them to do has got to be detailed oriented as well.
Another misconception is, and this is what I had a big challenge with when I was working in the hospital, I became the floor supervisor. My job is the 400 people come in, make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the biggest challenge we had was wearing surgical gloves. And we had to constantly teach us, the patients come in and you have to remove the gloves before you come into the hospital. And most of the time they'd get extremely upset. They thought that they were doing better by wearing the surgical gloves.
Yeah.
But here's the true story on that. When you put surgical gloves on, you're protecting only yourself. We don't know what those gloves in your hands, but from the time you came into the door, we don't know where your hands have been and what you've touched. So it's better to ask you to remove the gloves, sanitize your hands. We call that cross-contamination. And let me give a great example. I've experienced cross-contamination. I am allergic to the seeds in jalapeno peppers. Not jalapenos, but the seeds. My wife was cleaning the jalapeno peppers, and she touched the sink after she had touched the seeds. I didn't know that, so then I go and touch the sink. I touched my face. I had an allergic reaction. That's cross-contamination.
Wow.
So when you wear the gloves, you're going to potentially cross-contaminate.
Yeah.
So
What was she making for jalapenos?
the bacon wrapped cheese on the barbecue.
I'm supposed to have
on
an
the barbie.
I'm supposed to have an invite for that. Okay.
I understand.
I'm supposed to have an invite.
I understand.
Now, another thing that we also talk about too is as far as the kids wearing masks. You know, when we're doing drills, they have to be spaced arm's length apart, full arm's length apart. But if they're also waiting to do a drill, they need to have their mask on as well. So we are taking precautions that the CDC, Brad, Mike Walker, Don Davis, all those precautions that they've put out there, we're going over and above and beyond because we all want a football season. We all want the kids to be in school. We all want everyone to be as safe as possible and as healthy as possible. And I'm a coach and I'm out there, so I'm not only putting myself on the line, but I'm also putting my family on the line as well. But I've always coached with a sense of you can die playing football. Back when I was a junior in high school, one of my good friends, Jermaine Alexander, broke his neck playing football. And I was the first person to get there to see him in that state and try to wake him up or get him up, as you know, players do when someone gets injured. And I remember my trainer back then, we didn't have a trainer, we just had a coach. And the coach came out and he had swallowed his tongue, and the rest of it was very tragic. So from just seeing someone die on the football field, I've always coached with a sense of knowing that. So now that you add the sense of, yes, you can die playing football, but then you add the COVID on top of that, it's even got me more concerned and watching the mannerisms in which I also adhere to the kids as well.
Yeah, something else needs to be thought of. Another reason it's good to put people back out in front of people. We have looking at it from a health perspective on how we are created as human beings. God created us to build an immune system.
Yes, sir.
If you block that ability to build up that immune system, potentially what could happen with people locked in all this time, come wintertime, when other the flu, get a cold, their immune system is going to be so shut down that we could potentially have a so many more sick people. I'm talking about those that want to close themselves off.
Right.
That's why
right.
getting out and trying to adapt into building up your immune system is how we were created.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
built in us. We don't
Yes.
want to turn that off or shut it off.
No.
So getting back in school, getting back in sports, doing the right things, keeping clean. This is the thing we should be doing.
Yeah. And you heard that from Coop. And Coop's been in how long? 37 years?
37 years.
37 years. And we have here at Second Baptist, we're blessed to be able to have him on board. And he just spewed off a bunch of information for you. Whoever's watching the podcast, please get some of that information inside of you. Now, you think he can talk like this? You should catch him alone on a one-on-one. My good friend Brad Cooper, love this guy.
Man.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Deuce, thanks for bringing Brad Cooper on. I mean, the amount of information he gave us, and especially coming from Baylor College of Medicine, Texas Medical, or Houston Medical Center, really, right? I know it's Texas Med Center, but it's here in Houston, largest in the world.
Yes.
You know, one thing that we've been talking about at VYPE is if you don't have athletics, you're hurting the leaders of tomorrow, right? The skills that young adults learn being a part of a team is vital. And if you remove that, and then Brad saying that, you know, for these larger ISDs that can't handle all of these kids coming back, they're just going to get 60s and Ds and a passing grade without getting an education. That even more is hurting the future of our community of leaders. And,
Yes.
you know, what we're trying to figure out is for these student athletes, you know, psychology plays into this, right? I mean,
Yes.
What's worse, not having your high school sports career, not being able to go to school, not being able to see friends, being stuck at home, playing video games all day long by yourself, secluded, or taking a chance with a virus that has a nationwide 0.2% death rate? What's going to cause more harm for our kids from elementary to high school? And so having somebody like Brad kind of shed some light, some facts, you know, the fact that it is right around the corner, having an immune system that works, that was great having him on.
Yeah, and I know y'all had some concerns at St. Francis as well, and Kincaid had some concerns, different other private school as well. It feels so much as a parent, because I'm a coach, but yet and still I'm a parent as well. So it felt so much better to have Coop have that information, be able to roll it out for us, to give us a better perspective and also help us with our wisdom and discernment as we send our kids back to school at Second Baptist and play volleyball and get back into football. So it's been a blessing in disguise, really.
I think we put out some good information on COVID-19 and how we should be acting right now and getting these kids back on the field. You know, one of the other main topics that, you know, it's on the news every night. I've had a ton of conversations with my kids about it. It's racial injustice. And, you know, just to kind of set the stage for us, right? I mean, May 25th, the entire world saw that horrific video of George Floyd being detained, saying the words, "I can't breathe," over and over. His death caused by police brutality. It began a nationwide fight for racial injustice.
Yeah.
You know, you see we say their names: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Deion Johnson. And those are the recent, and that is nowhere near the full list. You know, we see Black Lives Matter. It's on every Major League Baseball game, NBA. And, you know, prior to all this, to me, that was an organization that started in 2013 after, you know, everything that happened to Trayvon. And, you know, they were a great organization that focused on building power to bring justice and healing and freedom to Black people across the globe. But it's now more. It's a rallying cry that says, once and for all, it's time for change, right? Enough is enough. And, you know, Deuce, when you saw that video of George Floyd, what was your initial reaction?
I'm sure I was like a lot of other people. I saw the video at first, but the first time I saw it, I think I was training someone and I couldn't hear the words or hear what was going on. I just saw 4 police officers or 3 police officers on top of a black man and 1 police officer standing there. So I thought just another situation to where the media is portraying a black unarmed man being assaulted in a certain way by 3 police officers. And then I got an opportunity to hear the video, the audio with the video. And it brought me back to a place where I had a buddy of mine named Welton Tate. And in 2012, Welton got into an altercation with another motorist. And him and that motorist end up in a fight behind road rage. And the motorist end up choking my friend Tate to death, killed him. And I just was wondering, was my friend crying out like that? Was he saying that he couldn't breathe in his last moments? And since it was just my friend Tate and the guy that was choking him out and the guy's wife, we never know the real story about how he died, because the guys claimed that it was self-defense. But I know my friend Tate, to see him die like that, and to see the face of Derek Chauvin just staring to the camera with no remorse, just his eyes looked dead. He looked evil. It changed. It changed my perspective on the video when I seen his eyes. But it really hit home that he died that way, just like my friend Tate. And I thought to myself when I heard the audio, it hit a little different, with him screaming out for his mom and telling his kids that he loved them. I know I got kids, and that could have been me, that could have been one of my friends, so it really hit home in a different way, in a different manner than the previous videos of police brutality. And just like me and how I felt it, the world felt it. Maybe it was because of the pandemic, or maybe it was because they kept showing it over and over and over and over and over again. And it was because we didn't have anything else to do, because we were locked in and locked down. Because this thing has happened before, right? There's been police killing unarmed black men, unarmed people, period, for years. But this time it felt different, and it felt different for me. And obviously it felt different for the world, because the world reacted, right? The world stood up, and now it felt different because I saw people that didn't look like me out protesting and standing up for what everybody knew was a horrible modern day lynching, right? And so I think that day right there, May 25th, 2020, is the tipping point of changing the world. And not so much that because it was George Floyd, but because it was showed so much, and that it took on a different light. And here we are today discussing it again and trying to still figure out, how can we make the world better? How can we change things? Can we change it from a political standpoint? Can we change it with the vote for the next president? I don't know. Can we change it for local votes? I don't know. I'm not in that political realm, but what the realm that I am in is coaching. And I know that I have a voice when it comes to coaching. I have an influence when it comes to coaching. I can change the mindset of people that I'm around because I am a coach and I'm someone that people don't mind listening to or feel that I have an authority figure and they want to listen to, right? So I know that that locker room is a place that we can change because racism, as we know, is taught at home, right? We weren't born with racism. Nobody's born racist. Everybody that becomes a racist is taught to become a racist, where it's at home, or let's say you're a kid and you don't have a home, but you get picked up or your influences around you are racist and they start teaching you this way of life. That's where racism really stems from. It stems from someone influencing you to be such. But when you come into a locker room, the only person that influences you is how you're treated.
Yep.
You know, it's not about the color of your skin. It's not about how tall you are, how much hair you have, or how much no hair you have. It's all about, are you here with the same goal that the other people in this locker room are about? Are you about that goal? And that's what the world needs to be about. And that's why, as coaches, we try to influence and love on the kids that are in that locker room so they can go out into society and be a cosmo reflection of that locker room.
I mean, you're bringing up the locker room, and that, inside of a locker room, it's really one of the only places in America right now where there is racial equality, right? Everybody is fighting for the same goal. Everybody has each other's backs. And, how do we take that locker room mentality outside of the lines? Because, even today, or when I went to school, you went to school, as soon as practice was over or the game was over, we all went to our own lives, right? But inside that locker room, we were a team. We were one. We were a family. How do we take that locker room mentality and expand it outside of the locker room, outside of the field?
The best way that I think, and this is just my experience, right? This is how I grew up playing sports. You would go to someone's house that didn't look like you, and you would maybe have dinner or spend the night even with someone that didn't look like me, another family. I know when I was growing up, I would spend the night over my teammates' house, and then I would get a different perspective on how my teammates lived, whether they were white, whether they were Hispanic, whether they were Indian, Black even. I would get a different perspective on how people live, and in turn, they would get a different perspective on how Blacks lived or how to interact with someone Black. I would go over some of my friends' house, and at one particular point in time, I knew that one of my friends, I didn't know walking into the situation, but I found out that one of my friends' dad was somewhat what we would call racist, right? And because his son wanted me in his house, he had to put aside his racism, right? He had to put that away because now this young Black boy is in your house. And he saw his son love this young Black boy. So therefore, it opened up his mind to it, and it opened up his heart to it. And he passed away, and his son told me how much he loved me. And in my mind, I always think about that when I think about someone that is racist, maybe sometimes they don't have an opportunity to get to know someone that they're racist against, right? So being here where I'm at Second Baptist, there's a lot of people that don't look like me, right? There's a lot of people, right? But you would be surprised on how curious those people are to want to have a conversation with me, to better the situations, to understand what's going on in my head or my world. Not because, because I'm Black, obviously, but they feel that I'm approachable. Now, why do they feel that way? Because I've been around here so long? Or maybe it's because they want to show that they're not racist, or they want to get what out of them. Hey, I'm not racist. Can I get this out? Can I get this question answered? So people have been taking me to lunch just to have a conversation. And I think that's how we have to combat this thing. You know, you've got to get down on the level of people and really talk to them and have open and honest conversations. The curiosity is out there. With this George Floyd, all the Black Lives Matter, the inequalities, all these different things that are going on in our society right now, you've really got to open up your heart, open up your mind, and have conversations with people. And I think that's a way.
You're absolutely right. And I, depending on the generation, I think the questions are different, right? I mean, it's, my kids, the good that has come out of this is prior to May 25th, my 13 and 10-year-old and me and my wife, we didn't talk about race. It just wasn't something that came up. And so when this happened, and then the protests started happening, my 10-year-old son very innocently was like, why are they all upset? Point at the TV. First off, I felt good as a parent that he was honestly asking, that it wasn't something that was coming to mind of, oh, I know why this is happening. But it allowed me to explain the situation to him, because he doesn't understand what is happening outside of his own bubble, right? And so that is a positive, that a white parent is talking to his white son about the racial injustice that is happening to African Americans in America, but specifically to the youth. I mentioned when we talked earlier about our good buddy Dre Thompson talking about how he has to tell his son not to get in the car with 3 other buddies. That's not something I would ever have thought to have ever told my son. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, but hearing those situations, because I didn't have to deal with that growing up, right? That's the fact. And so just being able to talk about that is a positive that's come out of this, because to your point, people who have not typically talked about this are talking about it and getting it out there. It's no turning a blind eye to it. Oh, I don't look like the person on TV, so that's not pertaining to me.
Right.
Those times have changed.
That definitely have. And that's interesting you bring that up as far as the situation of having to tell your son, don't be in the car with 3 other people, right? I was, obviously I hadn't been in a situation here lately where I've been harassed by the police, but I have been harassed by the police when I was younger. The area that I grew up in Westminster Village, off of Edgebrook and 45, sometimes being harassed by the police was merited, right? In my neighborhood, the police needed to come harass us and get us off the blocks, right? But then we would have these police called the jump out boys, right? and they would drive up in a white van, and we'd just be standing around because, you know, I played football, basketball, all the sports, but I also rode my bike, BMX, right?
Oh, yeah.
They would run up and jump out of an unmarked van and chase us down and try to get information out of us, right? So if you got caught, you became what the local people would say a snitch. But if you didn't get caught, then, you know, you would always be on alert to, hey, here comes Jump Out Boys, and you would run, right?
Yep.
That's a form of harassment. Yeah, sometimes people on the block were doing some things they shouldn't have been doing, so therefore it was kind of merited to harass. But then again, it wasn't. And as I got older and went to the University of Oklahoma, one time I got pulled over, and I know I was speeding, but I didn't have anything on me. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have insurance. All I had was an Oklahoma sweatshirt and Oklahoma pants to match. And the police officer asked me my name, where am I going? And he let me go. Works out for your benefit, but sometimes it don't. But when you're pulled over, because here recently, me and my daughters were driving to see my dad before he passed away, and we were pulled over. And my daughters, just to see their reaction, that my daughters were in the back seat and they were like, Dad, what's wrong? What's wrong? They were getting worried, and I could feel their tension, right? I could feel them getting concerned, getting worried. I could see it in their eyes. And I just told them, I said, hey, look, everything's okay. I wasn't doing anything wrong. We're all right. And the police officer, young white cop, walked up on us. He did everything protocol, took my driver's license, went to the back to his car, saw that I didn't have any warrants, saw that everything was okay. And he just came back and asked me where I was going. Did I know I was doing this? Did I know I was doing that? And I answered all the questions politely and well. And he gave me a warning for speeding. So, but the thing about it, to see my kids' reaction to being pulled over by a police officer was the thing that concerned me. So I've been taking my kids to Second Baptist at church, and when we see Officer Lewis or Officer Koch or Officer Hernandez or Officer Whitaker, I'm always taking them up to the police officers. Now, we have police officers in my family, but we don't see them on a regular basis. But at church, these are officers that you can reach out and touch, per se. Scott Williams, and I always take them by there. And hey, this Officer Williams, Officer Lee, Officer Hernandez, and introduce them to the police officers. Though, therefore, they won't have this stigma that the media portrays and says that all police officers are bad. I ride around with the police officers sometimes. When my friend Michael Warren used to be a sheriff, I would get in his SUV and we would ride around on Friday nights, just riding with the police, and I would see what they do. And police officers are human first. Let's get that right. And I'm not for defunding the police. I'm actually for making that position a higher title and paying the police officers more. If you want a better brand of person with the badge on, then you have to build that better person. You have to have a 3-year college possibly for that person. You have to be able to pay that person more, so more people will go out for that position that have higher character. Yes, there are bad apples in every bunch, but the majority of the police officers that I've dealt with have been good people, and especially my friends that are Carlton Prejean, Michael Warren, Gabe here at Second Baptist. Those are all minority police officers that are great police officers. So just wanted to make sure I got that out there.
No, I couldn't agree more. Just being the CEO of a media company and that focuses on high school sports and student athletes, I take great responsibility in the coverage that we do. And so obviously, with the racial injustice, what can I do with VYPE, right? What can we do more of, do better? I mean, you know our brand, you know what we do. And I mean, I feel we do a great job, but we could always be doing more, right?
Well, Shane, Sugar Shane, I like to say, you do a great job. You do a great job with VYPE Media, and you do have a positive influence in the community, and you are reaching out there in the community. Now, what can we do better with VYPE Media, with discussions with Deuce? I think that we can educate more, instead of having combines per se, why don't we have symposiums to where we educate on certain racial topics, or educate on how to conduct yourself in a particular light, or even simple things like a form of education to help out more so than giving away some product or some things like that. What's the common thing that they always say? If you teach someone, if you fish for someone, they'll starve, but if you teach them how to fish, they'll fish and live for a lifetime. I think it's those things like that. Those are the things that have always helped me out in life, is someone showing me a better way, more so than providing a better way, but showing me how to make a better way. And I think that's what we can do as far as VYPE Media, as far as coaches are concerned. We have to show these people, we have to show the people that are racist, the people that are not racist. We have to show the kids a better way on how to conduct themselves, and also that everybody has differences, but it's okay to have those differences. You know what I'm saying? And I think we've got to do a better job of just showing instead of a lot of lip service.
I agree. Well, and not to make light of the situation at all, but you do know that a driver's license in Oklahoma is an OU sweatshirt, right?
I do now. I do now. I definitely know that one.
No,
But funny story behind that. So I wanted my daughter to go to, she got a scholarship offer to go to the University of Oklahoma, right? So I had this big bubble around her. I had Cale Gundy, who's one of my dear friends. Shout out to Mr. Gundy. But I had Ray Gundy, but I had a big bubble around her, right? She got to Oklahoma, played there 1 year, and then left and went to Alabama. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have no bubble around you at Alabama. Then she ended up transferring back here to U of H, and we got another bubble around her. And shout out to Tillman Fertitta. And man, it's been a beautiful thing. But that driver's license in Oklahoma is just a sweatshirt. She couldn't pull that off at U of H. She got pulled over one time and got a ticket with all of her U of H gear on.
all right, we want to welcome a good friend of ours, Christian Hernandez. Deuce, how do you know that great gentleman?
I've been knowing Christian for over 20 years. I know he's been at Second Baptist for 18 years now. I've been coaching here for 9 years, but the way I met Christian was through a good friend of mine that passed away, good friend of his that passed away, Van. And Van used to open the gym for us here at Second Baptist to play basketball. And then Christian was under Van at the time, right? And so I got a chance to meet Christian through Van, and we've been hanging and building this relationship for the past 20 years. And I have people that are in blue that are in my family, like Michael Warren, and Christian is a part of my family as well. Matter of fact, when I had some incidents here that happened where a guy blatantly came up to me and was showing some bad character to me, Christian was one of the guys that escorted him off the campus. And we don't allow people to step out of character here at Second Baptist, nor anywhere else, without at least showing them, hey, look, we're still Christians, but yet and still doing the right thing is doing the right thing. And I'm proud to say that Christian, I introduce him to my kids because I want my kids to see that, hey, this is the right way to do your job as a police officer, someone that represents the community, but also does it the right way. And if you ask anybody around here about Christian Hernandez, they're going to tell you magnificent.
That's great.
Thank you, Deuce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my name is Christian Hernandez. I worked here at Second for over 18 years, a little over 18 years, and just happy to do so. Happy to do the right thing.
Well, Christian, we appreciate you being here, and
Thank you.
got one important question really to ask you, right? And just a little lead in for that. Since we're in Houston, within the Houston Police Department, currently 53% of the officers are minorities, 22% of which are African Americans. And blaming the whole for the actions of a few can be viewed as a definition of systemic racism. Not all police officers are bad. In fact, the majority put their lives on the line every day to protect and serve their communities. What should parents and coaches be telling their kids about the police in their communities right now?
It'll be plain and simple. Follow the law, do what is right, do the right thing. Always do the right thing. You shouldn't worry about other things. And don't put yourself into places you don't want to be in. Follow the law, do what is right.
And I know me and Christian, we were talking about everything that went down, with all the unjust and the racial inequalities and just the social unrest, right? And we were both talking about how you just got to do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? As far as police officers are concerned, as far as coaches are concerned, because there's a lot of bad coaching out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad police officers out there, but that doesn't mean there's no good police officers.
Can't blame all for the actions of one.
Right.
That's
Can't
it.
blame all for the actions of one. That's a good way to say it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, me being from South Houston and where I come from, the majority of people that I know look like me and Christian, right?
Correct.
And so, again, you have to know someone. You have to get outside of your comfort zone and have a conversation like we're having this discussions with Deuce. We have to have a conversation with someone like Christian who's in blue in order for you to break down those barriers and walls. And then when we can take that conversation and put it out to our football team and kind of let them know, hey man, this is how you act if you're pulled over, because we have kids that are driving now that are on the football team that look like me, that look like Christian, that look like you, Shane. But we all tell them all. We don't try to segregate and say, hey, man, if you're black, you need to act a certain way. If you're white, you need to act a certain way. If you're brown, you need to act a certain way. Everybody has to act accordingly and have respect, right, for each other. Not only because you're a police officer, let's say someone like a trainer pulls you and say, hey man, what are you doing here? You need to know how to conduct yourself in order for that situation to turn out the right way, right?
I think you hit the nail on the head. We talk to a lot of parents and athletes about how to conduct themselves. Social media is great to promote you, but it can also damage you. The Katy quarterback last year, after destroyed his image by saying something stupid to somebody with an iPhone, and it got pushed out on social media. And so I think the moral of the story is whether it's an officer or a parent or a coach or a trainer, just be respectful.
Yeah. That's it.
Respect one another.
Respect one another. Well, Christian, I thank you, brother, for coming in and having the discussion with Deuce, man. You're one of the guys that do it right, and I appreciate you for that, and I love you for that, brother.
Love you too, Deuce.
And keep on doing your thing.
You too, sir.
Thank you, Christian.
Mm.
Well, Deuce, I think this first podcast went well. It was a success, and I'm looking forward to doing this again in a couple of weeks and continuing to do this together. And I think having our guest on brought some great information for us, for our viewers and our fans. And again, I think the moral of today was You got a Longhorn and a Sooner together as friends. We come from different backgrounds and we're friends. And the psychology, including the leaders of our future leaders, of our current student athletes right now, is what's most important. And making sure we figure out a way to keep on the field and in school.
Yes, sir. Your circle, love, influence. Circle of influence. And we're going to put that out. And hopefully VYPE Media and Circle of Influence can partner up and kind of help out and be the front runners of making change happen for years to come. I know VYPE Media is doing some great things right now, and I'm going to be so excited to be a part of it. And like you said, Shane, this one went great, and it's only going to get better. We're only going to have better guests, and we're going to influence the world in a positive manner. Thank you for setting this up, Shane. My pleasure, brother.